Hello, everybody. Monday. Those of you in the room, we were just playing a little mamas and papas. Monday, because it is a summer Monday in the market today. There is very little going on. In fact, I was just showing the room here. Let me do that here. Hang on one sec. So if we look at today's S&P volume, so far, less than 1.3 million contracts. It is absolutely just atrocious. Let's look at SPY. Okay, look at SPY here. Average volume was over 80 million contracts today, 24 and change. Qs. See if the same pattern in the Qs here today. Average volume 52 million, just about 17 plus today. This is summer trade, guys. Don't get roped into it. Don't get caught up in it. What do I mean by that? Well, when there is a lull in trading, if you will, or if there's, little bit of a decline in volume like we're seeing right now, that a lot of times can be a recipe for disaster. Why is that? Well, everybody always wants to trade, right? We want to be in on the action. But sometimes there's no action to be in on, and that's okay. So what I'm trying to say is don't ever force a trade. Okay? That will tend to happen on days like this with little volume. So those are the times we just kind of hang back a little bit and we do what we do best. And that is kind of stick to the principles that we know, the strategies that we know, the reward to risk that we know. Speaking about reward to risk, how about this guy? Rondo's with us.
What's going on, boss man? It's fun you say that. I just had a couple of people that hit some spots that were real close to entries in our room, but where I'm feeling we're a little top heavy right now, maybe in the crypto side. So we're going to wait and get our opportunities.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? Those of you that are saying there's an echo in the room, it might be because I think I still have the volume up in the vol room. Let me check that really quickly here. I think that might be the problem. And you know what? For whatever reason, my computer seems to be stuck with that room. So I am actually going to close out that room really quickly and then get back in there. Interesting. I will have to figure out how to do that there, but I can't do anything in this room right now. So gonna have to just turn the volume down in the vol room, everybody, and let's get back to what we want to talk about today. And before we do that, in Howard's honor today, smash the like button, hit the subscribe. Come on. There we go, RDB. Thank you. Let's get those likes going here. And then we're going to talk about the crypto market because as Howard was kind of telling the rest of the coaches this morning, we could be at an inflection point here. This is a very, very important area. What I have here is this is something, if you're part of Howard's crypto crew, every morning you will get a pre-market update, video update of Howard telling you kind of what's going on, what happened overnight, what's on the radar for the day. This is just a screenshot of today's. I think today's was 8 minutes long. So it's not just, Bitcoin's at 107, Ether is here, blah, 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 blah. This is a much more detailed look into it. So, Howard, tell us about what the heck is a treasury company. I thought, this was just buy a coin, sell a coin. What's a treasury company?
So as you were talking about it today, we are set that we could really see a little bit of a short squeeze here today. And part of it is that Michael Saylor and the folks at MicroStrategy were the first to do it. And now many others are sort of following in their footsteps. And what it is they're raising money through bonds, through stock offerings, through just straight out fundraising. And then they're using that money to buy Bitcoin. And they are storing that Bitcoin long term. And it's for a lot of them, for MicroStrategy, it's basically the entire existence of their entire company now is based upon how do we buy as much Bitcoin as we can. And down the road, he has plans to be a bank of Bitcoin. That's why it's now called Strategy B, and it will move. But as you have up here, Marathon is pretty much number 2 when it comes to it, largest Bitcoin mining company in the world. The Thiel brothers are the runners of that company, not Peter himself, but Fred is the CEO, very much Bitcoin maximalists. They are doing the same thing. Those of you that don't know, Tesla still owns $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. They are up almost $500 million on their holdings and still doing it. And there's just a lot of them. And this is where sell pressure is now coming in. 476,000 Bitcoin. They're number one. The one that I didn't share with you earlier that gave you the amount is the number 2 actually now is probably CEP. CEP is Cantor Fitzgerald's equity partners, and Cantor Fitzgerald is starting a SPAC, and that SPAC is purchasing or going to become XXI, and they're starting off with 42,000 Bitcoin also.
That would definitely put them right up there with Marathon. I mean, that's
Marathon's still ahead of them, but they're going to be quickly number 3. And these companies, never mind, as you're mentioning, state, Robert, that's always been on the books. So just so you know, that is on the books for everything. If you have a stock account and you don't do anything with it in 3 years, it is considered to be dormant money, and the state holds it for you. They cannot sell it. They cannot transfer it. They cannot do anything with it. They actually just hold it in safekeeping for you. If you have a 401k that you haven't touched in 10 years, that's where that's being held to. I actually had one that the state of Massachusetts let me know about. So just be careful that that's a lot of FUD, as we call it. That is FUD, fake news out there. It is true, but it's not anything to worry about. And then to keep on with the amount, Metaplanet's the other one, a Japanese hotel chain that has recently now has almost 9,000 Bitcoin themselves. There are so many. Where do Bitcoin reside on the blockchain, Brad? That's a great question. The only thing that you hold is what we call the keys, private and public keys. So it always sits on the blockchain.
Or, as some people might think, and I've used this in the room before, this is one of my favorite things.
That really is basically it. It is. It's on the blockchain at all times. It's Bitcoin never leaves it. Ether is where Ethereum hides there, Robert. You are close. Ether is where Ethereum hides, but Bitcoin, all of it is on the blockchain. It never leaves. What moves or what we hold is something that shows that we have the right to control a certain amount of Bitcoin. So the same way that your checking account number, and password show that you have the ability to spend X amount of cash, it is the same thing.
You guys all know what this scene is from? Yeah, Lost in Cyberspace. You can say that is Mike TV in Willy Wonka. So it's towards the end. Mike TV, the little rodeo guy, puts himself in that machine and he goes into a gazillion little pieces, and his mom faints because he sees him floating overhead. That's where your Bitcoin is, guys. All right, had to just bring that in. So Howard, what does all this mean for investors? That these companies, and not just the companies, but like you said, ETFs, BlackRock, whoever it might be, just trying to hoard what is out there.
Yeah, there's only, right now there's 19.5 million Bitcoin. There'll only ever be 21 million, actually a little less than that. About 3 million of it's probably been lost forever. So what does it mean? If every millionaire in the United States wants to own one Bitcoin, they can't. There isn't even enough for that. So just put that into perspective. That's one of those ones that caught me early in the days of Bitcoin, was the fact that if a millionaire, and millionaires like to collect things, they can't all even have one because there's more than 21 million millionaires in the United States alone. So, you know, supply.
What do you think is going to happen? I mean, this certainly is a case of supply and demand, limited supply, unlike gold, unlike the dollar, where governments can just keep printing. How do you see Bitcoin once we get to that last halving, which is what, a couple years down the road, right? Before
100 years down the road.
100 years down the road?
2130 something.
Okay.
My mind's gone blank right now. 2136 or something like that.
Okay. So as this gets in more and more short supply, is it just going to continue being a short squeeze, or does at some point does this need to get into mainstream where I can go to the gas station and, you know what, pay with my Bitcoin wallet? Or
two parts to that is I don't think I do think that it's passed over to, it's become a storage of value. So the same way that you don't really want to use an appreciating asset to purchase something, you know, that becomes a big part of that question. But what's going to happen is we're going to start to talk about it the way that a lot of us in the industry wanted to for years, by the SATs, SATS, the smallest divisible amount. You won't talk about Bitcoin being at $2.1 million. You'll talk about a SAT being 21 cents. You know, the smallest divisible amount. We will move that. That's what will happen, is the discussion will move to that. But the same way that, you know, Berkshire Hathaway A now trades at what? You know, is that's what's going to happen. There isn't any more, right? Warren won't allow there, or wouldn't to this point. He wouldn't allow anyone to add to the supply of Berkshire. That is exactly what you want to look at for Bitcoin. So it never has to stop. You know, what's going to happen is you will see stable coins based upon, or that run using Bitcoin's blockchain and things like that, that will provide that. But the value for the blockchain will always be denominated through Bitcoin. Brad, why would you devalue it? What stops them is that you would need to convince more than 51% of the people that own Bitcoin to come to a consensus to create more. And it would devalue the amount they own. So who in their right mind would allow that?
But Howard, when you say 51% have to come to an agreement so they could create more, does that mean that there is someone holding the gatekeeper's key out there? And once we get to 21,
yes and no. There is development that happens on Bitcoin. They're allowed to do certain things. No, because what would happen there is you would have a war like we had, which led to the offshoot of Bitcoin Cash from Bitcoin, where you had a fork. What would happen at that point is if people tried to increase it, they just tried to change, keep in mind, the amount of data that was allowed to be stored on a block, and it caused it to switch. And the true Bitcoin that's still in existence, BTC that we use, just kept on moving it that same way. So yeah, and they've done it before. Bitcoin Cash is one of those, Victor. And at one time it traded like 5,000, and now it trades for hundreds. It's done nothing but lose value ever since. You could create a set. There'll never be another Bitcoin that runs the same way that Bitcoin did, because of just, there's always going to be, from this day forward, venture capital that tries to start a coin or be involved in the starting of a coin. This is, you know, so you can't go back and recreate a second. And there are seconds and thirds that have been created. They just don't catch any wind. They, if anything, they just immediately lose value and go to nowhere.
So these companies here, not Tesla, because we know that, you know, outside of their Bitcoin holdings, we know what else they do. But these guys right here, where, you know, I don't know, 80 to 90% of their business is holding Bitcoin, right?
Or in the case of Riot, a marathon to mine Bitcoin, to secure the blockchain.
So does that mean that these stocks trade on the price of Bitcoin, or vice versa? Is, you know, how, when you look at a marathon, a Riot, a MicroStrategy, you're evaluating charts, you're evaluating bullish, bearish. What is guiding that? Is it just how volatile or how bullish the Bitcoin market is?
So for each of them, there are different strategies on how they purchase their Bitcoin. So you'd have to break down whether they used bond offerings to do it. What was that bond offering? Was it a favorable one? Most of them are going with what's called at the money, and you would know better than me that, but it means you're basically getting it at 0% interest. You're not paying back more money. So, that's it. But for Riot and Marathon, you would start to look at how profitable are they or how successful are they with their mining operations. So where do they have their, how much is their electricity cost versus others? Marathon was one of the first to go to Norway and use hydroelectric, very inexpensive electricity in Norway that's also 100% renewable energy. And Riot, on the other hand, is in West Texas for a lot of theirs, and they're taking advantage of those of the excess electricity that couldn't hit the grid there because they have a very inefficient grid in Texas. So they're over there and they do a lot of it there. So you start to have to look at what are their energy costs? How many mining facilities do they have, and how successful are they?
Got it. So the latest and greatest. Actually, before we go into stable coins here, let's get a word of the day out here, and it's more of an acronym. It's MR, or for micro strategy, whatever you want to call it, MSTR. That is our word, our letters, our acronym of the day here. Let's everybody get that up on the wheel, and then we're going to go back to what is really, I don't want to say taking the crypto market by storm, but what has really come to the forefront are these stable coins. Howard's going to talk about that here in a moment. All right, but let's get that MSTR. We see a lot of them coming through the chat here. Excellent.
And we are seeing the squeeze here on Bitcoin start to take hold.
You want to bring up a chart, Howard? Do you want to pull up?
I got my chart up. Sure, you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. You know how to share it on here?
Yeah.
Great. Go ahead. Have at it. Squeeze, baby.
Yeah. So we've been in a trade since the blue square here. We got in about 101,500 on Bitcoin when it bounced off.
Early last week, was it, or last week?
Late last week. Friday, Thursday.
Okay.
Was that Thursday or Friday? Thursday. Yep, Thursday. Late Thursday, we got into it. We've been watching it rain, and this is where you talked about patience. Is everybody was trying to get in as it was towards the edge of this liquidity zone that I'd sort of highlighted as the trading range. And I said, we got to wait to get to the bottom. We spent a lot of time here right in the middle. It would move to the top, then to the middle, then back to the top, and it wasn't giving us a straight move. We entered it at 101.5. And once it broke through that liquidity zone here at 106.8, you can see what it's done today. And I've got a target of 109.5 here for this squeeze to play up through. And it looks great. Everything on it's looking strong. Part of it for me too was I watch RSI a lot, and 50 is almost never the spot we bounce at on Bitcoin. We tend to bounce at 42 or 43%. And we were really waiting for that to hit, and that hit at the perfect time. Bounced off at 50 again.
That's really, I'd love to do a comparison on RSI when it's a buy signal of Bitcoin or crypto versus.
Well, you can see, like I was pointing out here as I went back, it almost never stops at 50 from the top.
Okay.
This was the one instance back in November, beginning of November, where it did. But if you look, it almost never does. This is a daily RSI. It's really interesting. It just almost never is. It will sometimes be its stopping point on the way up, but it almost never is where it stops on the way down and then retraces up. It tends to go to that 40 level to see an extended move.
Interesting.
So we were patiently waiting in the room, and that was the trade. It's playing out for us. We went long.
I'm looking right now. We're 108,760. Looks like
we hit half exit already, and we're holding a 112. To be honest with you, we're looking for a super squeeze. Now we'll adjust it here as we get to that point, but that was the play off the bat because we were coming into a weekend, and if we saw a fully bullish weekend, we would have looked. We're also in an Ethereum Nano future trade right now. We're up about $50 on. That's looking really good too. So We got long on 2 right now. We had just finished being short Ethereum. We actually hit that on that liquidity sweep that we saw last Thursday down, and then jump long from there.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's go back to.
I'm gonna give you your screen here.
Yeah, let's go back to stable coins. What the heck is a stable coin?
Yeah, so this is a big one, and it really just came to the forefront with that coin that you see on the right side there, which is USDC, otherwise known as a stable coin produced by a partnership between Circle, which is now a publicly listed IPO, CRCL, and
options were listed on Circle today.
And Coinbase. So that is a partnership between Coinbase and Circle. They make a stable coin, and that stable coin means that you are able to move money across blockchain instantly for a variety of reasons, but that is not in a volatile asset. You asked me, do you want to go buy your donut with Bitcoin? I don't. But what I want to do is I want to be able to use a stable coin. I want to be able to do something using crypto native products to buy a donut. And that's where stable coins are going to come in. And even more so is our friends Scott Bauer and Howard Lutnick have talked a lot recently about the fact, right? Countries are stopping buying treasuries from us, right? Do you know who the largest purchaser recently of treasuries was? Tether, USDT, because they are moving billions and billions of dollars a day that need to be held somewhere and need to earn a little bit of yield for them to make money. So what they do and what these stablecoin producers do is they give me a coin, USDC, and then they take my dollar and they go buy short-term treasuries with it. And they profit off of those short-term treasury yields while they wait for me. So they stay Bitcoin neutral, they stay Ethereum neutral. And what they bank on or what they make their money on is producing stable coins. They charge me a small amount to mint it. And they also make most of their money off of investing my money in short-term treasuries.
How do they hedge that though? Because if they're buying short-term treasuries, what if yields are going up?
They still have a fixed asset income there. So again, for them, it wouldn't be a problem. They're turning them every 30 or 60 days or 6 months, I think is the most they're allowed to hold. And they do hedge them. They have cash holdings. They're only allowed to do a certain amount into treasuries. They're constantly buying and selling them overnight, and they would hedge them the same way that a JP Morgan, that's a little bit above my head there, to be honest with you, is they'd be hedging them the same way your bank that's doing the same thing with your dollars, right? Using overnight repos. But they were the buyer of last resort, basically, when treasuries just hit the fan, a month and a half ago.
So the stable coins are tied to basically the dollar?
Yeah, they are meant. So it is meant to just hold value for me in a way that is safe. And some of them hold the money and don't use treasuries. That's what Custodia, the bank, is trying to do. They just want to actually have it collateralized 100%. And most of them use short-term treasuries as a way to garnish them.
I mean, there's so much to the space, to the crypto space outside of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin, and all the garbage there, that there's just a world out there, guys. And if anybody is interested at all, I mean, Howard is the one you want to learn from. Howard is the master, MSTR. See, the Hulk master out there. And this trades 24/7, unlike the equity markets that we have our fixed time for this trades 24/7. So there's a lot.
And with no PDT rules either.
No PDT rules, and in and out. So if anybody is interested in finding out more about crypto, in fact, you guys probably all received an email on this, but it is time for our monthly coaches roundtable that has been so well received over the last 5-6 months or so. And that is going to be tomorrow night. Now, we have done these in the past after the close of the market, like at 3:30 in the afternoon, but because There was so many people there and so many people that wrote into us and said, hey, I can't make it. I don't really want to watch the review. Is there any way to do this at night? Blah, 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 blah. All right. Tomorrow night is the night. So all of the coaches will be together tomorrow night. I'm sure you will get an email if you haven't already, and we'll put a link up in the room. But this is your opportunity to interact with all of us and ask any questions whatsoever, what's going on in a certain area here. So any questions for Howard before we go to the wheel here, whether it's on Bitcoin or stable coins or anything else? All right, looks like we got a couple last minute MSTRs up there in the chat. Any questions for the man here?
Aladdin, how are you doing, my friend? Hope all is well, sir. Ripple's struggling right now. Got to be honest with you. Ripple is struggling a little bit here while everything else is moving up. They are doing good things. They're out of the woods, so to speak, with the SEC. Their new stable coins doing pretty well. That's going to help a lot. They're doing a lot in the intersection with Swift and Chainlink and on working some stuff. So they're definitely, I am a fan of XRP. I do think it has a spot. No, it is not a stable coin. They have created RUSD, Ripple USD, which is a stable coin. So they're using that. That's going to help promote XRP to the XRPL, as it's called, the ledger or the blockchain that XRP runs on, and profitability or fees that come from that would go, in theory, to the XRP holder. My buy on XRP right now, we're actually that's a tough one because I'm actually looking to short it here today. It looks a little overextended. I would let it drop down. I do like XLM, Robert. They do the same thing, though. That's one of whichever one you like, one or the other. I don't have a favorite between the two. The same person, Chris Larson, that started XRP, started XLM. They should have, in my opinion, XLM should have done a better job of developing a moat and moving ahead of XRP when they were in problems with the SEC. The fact that they didn't shows that their connections to maybe the TradFi world not as good as XRP's.
Once you hear SEC, that I think gives a lot of people the willies.
Yeah, not anymore. Now it's our friend.
Yeah, well, when it was with what's his name?
Yeah, with Mr. Gensler, we didn't have that same. I love MetaPlanet, Victor. MetaPlanet is great. The Japanese company that is following MSTR in there. So, Victor, I do like MetaPlanet. My problem with Michael Saylor is that MSTR is controlling too much of the Bitcoin nowadays.
Remember when Gensler first came in, Howard?
We thought he was going to be good for the markets, yeah.
So pro crypto, and then it just
yeah, he was in bed with Miss Yellen there.
Whoops.
I don't mean that physically. I mean because that visual will now never go away for most of you.
Hey, Aladdin, we are here every single day at noon Central. Every day, noon Central. So you may have gone to our YouTube channel maybe a little bit late or after we finish because they are all recorded and put on there so you can watch them. But that is noon Central every single day. All right. All right, Howard. Give us a countdown here, a little drum roll. There we go. Love it. Oh, that's a busy one today. There are a lot of people on the wheel today. That is a busy one. Frank, Gene, Glenn, Elisa, we're Frank Belmont in the house.
There you go. Aladdin CoreWeave. I like what they're doing. It's the too fast, too far. Same thing with Circle today getting killed. I'd let those things play out a little bit and then look at CoreWeave after. Was a huge Bitcoin mining company, now really partnering with the NVIDIA into the world of, data centers. But they, got a little overblown, in my opinion, on that. So I would let it pull back a little bit. Roger, you nailed it, Roger. We never want one entity to own too much.
Boy, there's a lot of congrats to Frank, but I'm thinking Frank might not be here. Frank, are you here? Are you here?
And Stephen, I can't argue with that. $2 would be a good spot to get in on XRP. Would not argue with that at all. Sorry, you were. I forgot to answer that question.
Okay, we're going to give Frank the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, Frank. I think we got to spin again, everyone. All right.
Uh-oh.
We got to spin again. Howard, little drum roll, please. Go.
There we go.
Mark or Maria, Mark or Maria, Mark or Maria. Susan, are you here? Are you here? And everybody, I just posted a link up in the chat here for our coaches roundtable for tomorrow night.
Thanks a lot. I've been working on that.
I was gonna say if nothing else works out, you can be a drummer.
There you go.
Maria, are you here? We can't have two. Oh, there, right away. Beautiful.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Beautiful. You know what to do, Maria. You can send me an email, prosperswag@prospertrading.com. And we will get you out some swaggeroony. All right, again, everybody, the link, I'm going to post it one more time here in the chat. If you want to sign up for our coaches roundtable for tomorrow night, there it is in the chat, 7 o'clock Central Time, and you will get the full Monty. You'll get all of us. So, Howard, thank you for joining today.
Absolutely.
You'll have to let us know if you hit that next target at 112.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, have a fantastic day, and we will see you later on.
See ya.